Welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. The first episode of Moon Knight was insane. So many WTF moments. But the biggest question everyone must have is, what's happening to Steven? Is any of this real, or is it all in his head? Who's the guy in the mirror? Who the heck is this tall, scary, bird-faced dude? And who is really in control of Moon Knight's body?
Surrender the body to Marc.
Sorry, what?
Now, some of you who read the comics might already think you know the answers about what's going on. But even if you've read the comics, or maybe just watched some videos on YouTube, there's still a lot to answer about what's happening on this show. What's the mental illness that Steven is suffering from, and what causes it, and what all of this means for Moon Knight.
Look at me. This is real. I'm real.
No, it's not real.
Yes, Steven, you gotta give me control. It's the only way.
One of my favorite things about the Moon Knight comics is that he's not a squeaky clean good guy. He's dark, he's broken, and it's fun to explore those kind of characters, like orcs in fantasy stories. They've always been way more interesting to me than the heroes. That's one of many reasons I've been enjoying the mobile and PC game Raid Shadow Legends. They're the sponsor of this video. This is a turn-based RPG set in the world of Talaria, and it features more than 600 champions from unique factions, including my favorite, the orcs. I got really invested in the story of these orcs. In the game, they were created by a Dark Lord, and they were defeated by the elves and other factions, and now they're nomads, scraping by to survive. So they've joined up with the Elf Queen, and I'm not really sure if we can trust her or not, and I just really want to see where this goes. The design of the orcs is awesome, and right off the bat, my favorite was Gallic. I'm working to get him maxed out because his Hellraiser ability is crazy strong. One reason I got into this game is because they do a great job of introducing you to the gameplay and the story, because it's really easy to earn XP and silver in the campaign's early levels. And eventually, you can join up with your friends in a clan where you can fight bosses and earn even more rewards. Now, if you want to try the game out, we've got a great deal to get you started. If you use my code or scan the QR code right here, new players will get a free starter pack worth almost $30. You get a free champion named Anya, 200,000 silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in-game. Now, these rewards will be in your inbox for the next 30 days only. You can find me in-game under the name Rise Anonymous. Just click the link in the description, and I will see you in-game. So first, what's happening in the show is real. It's not an illusion or something that's only in Steven's head. Moon Knight is a very complicated hero, and that's because he's suffering from a mental illness called Dissociative Identity Disorder. This disorder causes a person to manifest 2 or more distinct personalities. The identities take control of the individual at different times, and this is the cause for gaps in memory among many of the effects of DID, and the alternate identities are known as alters. And that's what's happening to Steven. Every time Steven goes to sleep, he loses control of his body to his other identity. That's why he has memory gaps, how days go by without him being aware.
But if you want to swap it, go ahead. But like I said yesterday, they've
Wait,
all
what?
got...
What do you mean yesterday? I wasn't here yesterday.
Yeah, all right.
And why it seems like his body has a mind of its own. And that's because it does have a few other minds. Well, I mean identities. Of course, the DID is heightened for this show. The mystery man in the mirrors is Steven's other identity, the one who takes control at the end of the episode.
Hello, man in the mirror.
I know you're scared.
A bit, yeah.
I know you're confused. You weren't supposed to see any of this.
What are you?
Sure you want to know?
And this persona is Marc Spector.
What's wrong with you, Marc?
What did you just call me?
But here's the twist, in case you didn't know. Steven Grant is not the real identity. He is an alter identity. Marc is the real one. To use Fight Club for an example, basically Marc is the narrator and Steven is Tyler Durden.
Say it. Because we're the same person.
That's right.
Spoiler alert for Fight Club, I guess. I mean, it's a 23-year-old movie. So one of the best moments of the episode is when Steven wakes up in the middle of nowhere, suddenly being chased by a cult, and he and Marc clash over control of the body. When Marc is in control, Steven is completely unaware of what's happening, his consciousness cutting in and out, causing memory gaps. But when Steven is in control, Marc seems to still be awake, as he can talk with Steven and even take control of his body. Later in the video, we will theorize on why Steven wakes up when Marc is in control all of a sudden.
But I can't have you fighting me this time.
At the end of the episode, Steven gives Marc control over his body and he becomes Moon Knight. And Moon Knight is the third personality. Yes, Moon Knight is a distinct identity on its own. Now, Marc is the one in control and the one in the suit. But as is often the cases with masked vigilantes, the mask becomes its own persona. Think of Batman's different identities for an example. We have the Batman who appears in front of criminals, who's different from the Batman who interacts with Commissioner Gordon. Then there's Bruce Wayne, the playboy billionaire, and the real Bruce, who appears only before his closest allies. So that's also the case with Moon Knight, only he suffers from DID. As Moon Knight, Marc tends to be a lot more vicious, even cruel at times. His justice is ruthless and unforgiving. There's a fourth alter that we will meet in the show, and that's Mr. Knight. But it's unclear how that persona will be presented in the show, since they're doing some changes to the source material. Now, there is something interesting about the fact that Marc is the real identity, while Steven is a personality created by his DID. If you noticed, usually in stories like these, the alter serves as a type of protector. The narrator in Fight Club created Tyler Durden, a cooler and stronger version of himself, the type of person that he wants to be.
People do it every day. They talk to themselves. They see themselves as they'd like to be. They don't have the courage you have to just run with it.
In Mr. Robot, Elliot Alderson created Mr. Robot, a rebellious hacker who leads a revolution against the establishment. And Mr. Robot serves as Elliot's protector personality. Even in Lord of the Rings, Smeagol created Gollum.
Won't you? Where would you be without me? Ellen, I saved us.
But Steven is the alter, at least that's the way it is in the comics. And Steven is clearly not a protector personality. He's more like the narrator and like Elliot, while Marc is more in line with the created personalities like Durden and Mr. Robot. So there is an interesting shift here. Now, to make it clear, the identity types created by Dissociative Identity Disorder are varied. So the protector persona is far from being the only identity that can be manifested because of DID. That being said, in the comics, all of Marc's identities are created as tools for him to fight crime, and they're not created to protect him. And that brings us to the comics. I don't want to deep dive too much into the comics, so here's a very brief explanation of Moon Knight's history. Marc Spector is a mercenary who ends up mortally wounded and left for dead in the desert. In his dying moments, Marc is able to reach the tomb of Khonshu, the Egyptian moon god. Khonshu appears before Marc, and in exchange for saving his life, Marc must become his avatar.
Avatars. Blue people. Love that film.
By Avatar,
You mean that?
what I mean,
Anime.
Steven.
Shortly after, Marc becomes Moon Knight, a vigilante who delivers Khonshu's vengeful justice. To aid him in his crime fighting, Marc creates various new identities to infiltrate multiple social circles. And that's how we got Steven Grant in the comics. But the big difference is that Steven is a billionaire and a businessman, and he also serves as Marc's public face. While in the show, Steven is a British gift shop employee in a museum.
Oh, I'm a gift shopist. I work at a gift shop.
There's likely a story reason for this change, and we have a theory about that which I'm going to get to shortly. But I think Marvel made the change partly because of the obvious similarities between Moon Knight and Batman. Now, the resemblance between the two characters never bothered fans that much because Moon Knight is a great character and that's all that really matters. But yeah, Steven in the comics is basically playboy billionaire Bruce Wayne.
We're the same, you and I. We're just a couple of hot-headed fools.
Yeah, same.
Steven Grant is obviously meant to infiltrate the rich and powerful. And there's also Jake Lockley, a taxi cab driver, who serves as Moon Knight's street-level persona. And in recent years, there's a new predominant identity, and it's Mr. Knight, who serves as a consultant and a detective. Marc has other identities, but these 5 are the main ones, the 5 being Marc, Steven, Jake, Moon Knight, and Mr. Knight. And also in Moon Knight's lore, these represent the different phases of the moon. But I wouldn't be surprised if we meet more personalities as Moon Knight's story keeps unfolding. Now, at first, these personalities merely serve as tools for Moon Knight's crime fighting. But over time, he developed DID, losing control over his body and identity. That's how his mental disorder came to be. Though this was later retconned and revealed that Marc always suffered from DID. Now let's talk about why the changes to Steven in the show are so significant. Steven doesn't appear to serve Moon Knight's mission in any way. He's completely oblivious to the existence of Marc and of Moon Knight. Steven seems to be more of a distraction and a nuisance than a helpful identity.
Wake up, Marc. If he loses the scarab, I'll kill you both.
I don't understand what's happening!
Khonshu makes it clear that he does not like Steven.
Go back to sleep, worm. The idiot's in control. No, the idiot's back.
I don't know what I'm doing!
Then leave us be, parasite.
So how did Marc end up losing control of his body to Steven? And why is he so different from the comics? The first option, and the most likely one, is that Marc created Steven as a way to deal with his dark past and him being the avatar of a god. If Marc has always suffered from mental illness, then being possessed by Khonshu probably threw him over the edge. Marc's past is bloody, and it got bloodier as Moon Knight. So perhaps he wanted to forget all his sins, trying to reinvent himself as someone new, a nobody, a guy who's living a simpler and more normal life. After all, when Marc takes control of the body, he doesn't just go off and do Moon Knight stuff. He goes to work at the museum. He asks this lady out. He's taking care of Gus the fish. He's doing all of that because he actually wants to believe in this life. It's a way for him to escape his existence, to escape the life where he must serve a ruthless and unforgiving God. a reality filled with monsters, a world where he's Moon Knight. Stephen's life is much simpler, and it's a coping mechanism. And that's maybe how it started, as Marc tried to live a normal life while also being Moon Knight. And at some point, his DID took over, turning Stephen into an actual identity separate from Marc.
The voice in your head, relentless, forever unsatisfied.
There's another possibility with Moon Knight's personalities, and that's that his dissociative identity disorder is more supernatural in nature. In the 2014 run of Moon Knight, it's revealed that Marc's multiple personalities are not caused by actual DID. Instead, the mental illness occurred because of Khonshu. The identities were created because of serious brain damage caused by Khonshu's godly presence. As a god, Khonshu has 4 roles: Pathfinder, Embracer, Defender, and Watcher of overnight travelers. And these personas are the reason why Marc suffers from DID, as his mind attempts to balance between these 4 facets of the god. The 4 roles of Khonshu could actually work with the 4 personalities in the show. The Pathfinder is Marc, as he's the one who introduces and explains to Stephen the truth about their condition. Pioneer is another definition of Pathfinder, meaning the first person to explore or settle a new country or area, sort of like Marc is the first personality. The Embracer aspect fits Stephen, who is a much warmer and more kind person compared to Marc. This can also mean that Stephen is embracing his new reality as he learns the truth about his existence. And if Marc created Stephen as a way to escape, you can sort of see it as Stephen embracing Marc with a new and warmer life. The Defender is self-explanatory, and that's the Moon Knight persona. And the Watcher of Overnight Travelers aspect will be represented by Mr. Knight, who we've yet to see in the show. Mr. Knight is meant to be a consultant for the police and a detective, and unlike Moon Knight, he's more of an observant and cerebral crime fighter, sort of like a watchman. A watchman is someone who watches over a sick person at night, so maybe in the show, Mr. Knight is the persona who protects Marc and Stephen from the brutality of Moon Knight.
Summon the suit.
Summon the suit? What are you saying?
The suit.
The suit?
And keep this safe.
So, with the show embracing the supernatural nature of Moon Knight, I can totally see his DID being influenced by Khonshu, like in the comics. Now, the big question from episode 1 is why and how Stephen wakes and takes control over the body when Marc is in the driver's seat. Based on Stephen's reaction, this has never happened before, so why now? Well, Marc is under extreme duress and pressure every day, but now he's on a dangerous mission involving a goddess that threatens the whole world, and he's the only one who can stop it. So much pressure is unhealthy for someone with Marc's condition, especially since he must share his body with Stephen while following the orders of a demanding god. So all that stress coupled with his DID led to Marc losing control of his body at unexpected times, as Stephen phases in and out. There's also the unworldly explanation. It's probably not a coincidence that Stephen wakes up when Marc gets his hands on the scarab.
Will you return the scarab?
Oh, you mean,
You will give him nothing.
We still don't know what purpose this artifact serves, but it belongs to Aminet.
mate, I don't have your bloody beetle, I swear.
No, the scarab doesn't belong to me, it belongs to her.
And maybe when Marc touched it, some essence of Aminet affected his body and mind, causing Marc to lose control of his body.
What are you? Are you like living inside of me? It's a little more complicated than that.
So that's the answer with what the heck is going on with Marc and Moon Knight and Stephen. But what do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.